sun forsake me and the moon forgave me. Hi everyone, welcome to the Awakened Journalist. We do conscious journalism for the good of humankind. I'm your host, Emiliana Molina Fajardo. Today we'll be speaking with Keysel. He's a singer and songwriter, a human connection facilitator, a medicine and folk musician, a visual artist. He's also a model and a poet, and my dear good friend. We were also actually roomies together. We can get into some of those stories later down the interview. At one point here in Miami Beach. He was originally born in the seaside town of Barahona, Dominican Republic, and his love of culture and the arts has guided him throughout the world with a multi-instrumental tendency to lead others into the harmony of their own inner music. It is actually super impressive to witness Keysel playing more than like 3 instruments at once. I don't know how many you play at once, but I've seen you play the guitar, the harmonica, and then the rattles on your feet. It's really amusing and beautiful to hear and to witness. He is deeply influenced by a belief that everyone has a song and that music has the inexplicable power to heal the mind, body, and the soul. You'll find that the landscape of his music is just as varied as the folk influences of lands that he's walked through, weaving through melody and rhythm and sound that produces colorful sonic tapestry that also pays ode to beauty, nature, and the human condition. He also believes in unity consciousness and the power of love, and uses that to heal through his own music. So welcome, Keysel. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you, Emiliana, for having me here today. I'm really excited for the interview and open to whatever questions come through and answering them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I read a little bit of your bio, but if you want, can you explain or tell us who Keysel is?
So it's always been a hard question for me because I remember when I was given an essay back in high school to describe yourself and talk about your goals and what it is that you want in your life. I found it very difficult. So I was always very self-conscious. I think as a kid and still kind of self-conscious about talking about myself. But I guess you could say it's like a kid from Hialeah who really enjoyed music, really was always moved emotionally by music and what it does to people. And I guess it's something that I just couldn't help. So it followed me through my life, and a deep interest for culture, and followed that line as well too. And that kind of led me to all the places that I went to and all the music that I've made so far.
When did you start singing or playing your first songs?
So as far as I can remember, I used to hum a lot. I used to make up a lot of melodies when I was a kid. I used to play around with all my little toys and such. And so I would always make up like melodies and themes for them. I remember watching a lot of movies. I liked the music of John Williams a lot. These cinematic sort of ways that he had to be able to depict characters and represent them through music. And, I used to watch Indiana Jones and Star Wars, and I really loved the themes and the epicness of it all. And I remember I used to make up themes that are kind of like of a similar tinge when I was younger. And as I grew up, I started playing clarinet. And from there, I started learning a little bit of music theory and composition. So around middle school, I started actually writing down my first melodies and using a little software called Finale. And back then it was kind of very rudimentary, and I was able to kind of pinpoint the sounds and start working my own little symphonies and such, and little movements and etudes that I used to make.
Yeah.
And then moving from there, I started actually writing songs, and I think the style that I'm writing now in high school when I picked up ukulele.
I love that. I love that, Keysel. It's actually really beautiful to witness you playing all the instruments that you do. And, just to go back to what I mentioned at the beginning, we actually, last year in 2023, had a brief period where we lived in the same house in South Beach for a little bit. And I remember my happiest mornings were waking up to your practice.
I'm glad. I'm glad it wasn't a ruckus or anything like that. I was
No,
actually
it
kind of
was,
somewhat worried that it was like
yeah,
waking people up.
it was amazing. I would come out of my
Yeah.
room in my PJs and I would be like, yes, Keysel is rehearsing again.
Ah. I'm glad.
Yeah, and then we just jammed out in our pajamas more than once. It was
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much
I know. You
fun.
took a couple great videos. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So
I
I
did.
remember that time period. It was like really, really nice. And I apologize to anybody disturbed in the morning. Anybody who might be watching, Lauren or you or Chetton or whatever
I
else.
think we both loved it. Lauren, I don't know about Chet, but Lauren and I both loved it. We were like, Keysel's rehearsing, let's go.
Yeah. So, it was really great, to have a household that was so supportive, of music, of the vision, what you do and what a lot of my friends do, to be able to spread this continual consciousness of understanding of this vibration. I say, okay, it could be hippy dippy or whatever anybody sees it, but really, truly, it's a vibration. Yeah, and to me, it kind of starts like that. It's how it started for me when I was really young, and how it keeps going. And through my studies of spirituality, I've discovered the same. So I'm always really just feeling blessed by the different individuals like yourself that surround me every single day and continue to egg me on to keep doing what I do.
Thank you,
So,
Keysel. Thank you.
yeah.
And actually, you served as an inspiration because
Oh, yeah?
I had been praying to move more towards an artistic world
Mm-hmm.
and to learn more about music. And, when I ended up moving into the house and I saw that you were living in it, Lauren as well, and then our other roomies, I was super excited because I was so ready to just be surrounded by that ambience and to be able to, hear you rehearse often really supported me in expanding that prayer and learning a little bit more. So
Oh, I'm really glad.
thank you for that. Yeah.
I'm really glad. And it's like if I could make a difference in like a person's life, that to me is like what makes it.
Yeah.
Many people have approached me, and sometimes it's brought tears to my eyes. Some of the ways that my music have really touched people, and so it's sometimes kind of like, because that's kind of like the thing for me is like remembering those things, because sometimes even through my journey, there have been several episodes and various times where I have questioned the worth of what I do. If we're gonna go right into it,
Let's
it's
go
like
into
that's
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like, remembering the people and why did you do it. It's like, and I used to talk to bandmates before, and I kind of talked because I was kind of beginning to realize early on that it's like this whole music thing. Just to do it for the music itself feels kind of empty, because again, it's just a vibration. It's just like, waves through air, and something that, anybody can make, just like, that's that.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do with that? What are you trying to say with that? Why are you doing it? Yeah. And that's something that I would really rack my brain, when I first started doing music, because I wanted to make sure that like later on, I wasn't just doing this thing that I just ended up turning around as kind of like, so what is this waste of time? It's not even in my heart,
Yeah.
And so I really made sure that it was something that I couldn't help but do, and something that also had some type of relation with how I could communicate with people, because that's where it was that the value stood for me, how it could really touch people. And even with that, still I sometimes wonder, it's like, well, I mean, how helpful is it? How useful is it? And that's, of course, my own, vulnerabilities, my own sort of tendencies, my own shortcomings that come from that lack of self-worth sometimes that riddles a lot of artists, and I've seen it cause not just self-doubt, but also conflict, and it's something that is kind of unfortunate, and I wish it wasn't like that. But, I mean, it's life.
It definitely is life, and I think, a lot of us can relate to that self-doubt.
Yeah.
Especially anytime we're following our heart and we're on mission for a greater good, which is what your music does for a lot of us, myself included. And you have one of my favorite songs that you wrote yourself that you're going to sing for us at the end of the interview.
Oh, yeah.
But, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that self-doubt. And one of the challenges maybe that you could go into as an example of a really difficult situation you've endured and how you were able to use your toolbox to kind of get out of it or get through it.
I would say, there's a time period there where I really felt, as a budding and growing artist, it's really difficult to kind of gauge the the place where you are, of like the balance of where do you sing, how do you sing, and when to allow, the energy to move about in different ways, and I can't say that like I was, always the best at managing that. I went ahead and I can definitely say that maybe I stepped on the toes of a couple good friends, and in it, it was a really great learning opportunity for me. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I also don't want to be like these folks who kind of like just like do it and they don't even care about it. Because to me, I think like, what's the point if there's no human relation, if there's no awareness brought to it, And it makes it difficult because, sometimes it does, you have to like kind of just slow yourself down. It's to take a pace. It's kind of like take a breath. And it's like, okay, well, is anything that I'm doing here, making anyone else feel smaller? But it's definitely not why I make music. It's not to make others feel smaller in the room. And also, find a way to know what isn't mine as well. And that's kind of been a very difficult balance because I'm still learning about it. And I really want to do right by as many people as I can, which is a kind of like difficult matter, and maybe, I don't know, could be even a lost cause in this world because you can't do right by everyone. Yeah. And it's just like you just have to do what you do and have a conviction and like, just administer awareness within that and hope for the best. And have that kindness and goodness in your own heart. Yet there was situations that kind of sprouted up, early on, when I was beginning to do music, where, there were folks who maybe felt that it's like, okay, I was playing too many songs or going ahead and like acting too big or this or the other thing, things that I just wasn't aware of. I was just playing music. I was just having fun. But then it's like these things were kind of like brought to my awareness, and it's just like, and it became kind of like a bigger issue that kind of like spread out like wildfire, into my friends, and it was a point, last year where I was kind of like, I gathered them all up, I was like, oh, I don't want these things to really, break us all apart. It's like I just see this sort of energy of disillusion and dissent just kind of enter into all of our hearts, and I felt kind of distant from everyone, especially the people who were close to me. And so I gathered everybody up, and it's like we did something with which my friend Phil Santos, we have he's my business partner with Ecstatic Playground, one of the human facilitators that really inspired me to do what I do with facilitation, and he called it a truth circle.
A truth circle.
A truth circle, yeah.
That's a place I want to be at.
I know, right? No, it was good. And I'll tell you, I was just kind of like an idea. I was kind of like, is this even a good idea? I don't know. It's like it really rattled my brain because I wanted it to be for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. Not because I want to keep my friends, but because I wanted to be an opportunity for awareness. Not just for myself, but for others too. And so we got together, and what it was is that my friends would come and they would talk about me as if I wasn't in the room. Mm. And so I kind of just there, and we had two sections, and I bought them pizza and everything, and it was like we had some food and everything. It was at the house as well. Okay. And so
I remember you told me.
Yeah, I told you about it.
Yeah, but you told me about it.
And so I went ahead and like I turned around. I was like and I looked off to the wall, and then there was the first portion where people started talking about good, positive things about me, which I found it actually surprisingly really difficult to hear.
Wow.
It's kind of weird. Because then there was the second section where then the complaints came. Yeah. And those were easier because I heard those. Yeah. I knew those. Oh, yeah. I was like, okay, of course. Oh, case was like this. Okay, was like that. Yeah. I was like, all right. I was just listening to it, and I could say nothing. Okay. There was an opportunity at the end where like, okay, I could go and speak a little bit of feedback, but it's like mostly I just needed to listen. And it was good. Wow. Yeah. I thought it would be painful, but I liked it. Yeah. Because it was just like, wow. It's like, these are the people that I care about. This is what they think about me. Yeah. And it also helped me kind of see, it's like into their own lives. Yeah. And like have also compassion, where I had to administer compassion and like see, it's like, okay, hey, I didn't know you felt like that. I never meant for you to feel like that. Yeah. That totally was never my intention at all, and I'm sorry. Yeah. That I had to
I'm getting the chills.
It's like, it's because it's like in the end of the day, nothing is really personal in this life. It all goes back through a long line of causes and effects. I mean, so, I'm a part of myself is that spiritually Buddhist. Mm-hmm. you know, and I really believe in that understanding. It's like it's a long line of causes and effects from beginningless time.
Yeah.
Who are we gonna blame? The Big Bang? You're not mad at me. You're mad at the Big Bang. You know, it's like we'll blame that thing for happening.
Yeah.
It's like that's why we're all here and like all this big disaster. Really?
Yeah.
This is when we pass away and we go back into that great light. You know?
Yeah.
It's like what's gonna be? You know, there's all this anger and resentment.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I really want to sing in the music. That's what I really want to administer. So I mean, I think that if I really want to be in that space, if I really want to hold that space for individuals, I need to be willing to do that myself.
100%.
You know? So it was a beautiful experiment, and everybody felt so much lighter after it. It was really nice, you know, and yet still, you know, even after that, you know, still there's things that need to be clear. There's still things that are about things even to this day, kind of things that I'm not happy about that, you know, are the energies that I just wish, you know, could be softened.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, there's also surrender.
Yeah.
Which I'm also learning a lot about.
I love that. Before you tell me a little bit more about surrender, I actually want to ask you a follow-up question on the truth circle. You know, and do you feel like it was difficult to you to simply receive all the good feedback, or what was it exactly? Why was it so hard?
I think that I thought about that ever since, you know, and I think that, you know, it goes back to an essential point of self-worth, you know, maybe a non-deserving, you know. I don't know. Maybe it's the same stuff that kind of feeds imposter syndrome. You know, it's like, oh, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be seen as this type of person. It's like, oh, what is all this nonsense, you know? It's like, well, you're doing the music.
Yeah,
it's like, and that other voice comes in. It's kind of like, well, people say it's valuable. Yeah. But in the end of the day, that's where it is, right? It's how it is that we really see our reality.
Exactly.
You know, and that's why I think that so many people pay thousands of dollars, you know, to help to essentially change their view on reality. Sometimes for nothing, because in the end of the day, it really is a change of just perspective that sometimes no amount of seminars, no amount of ayahuasca, no amount of plant medicine, no amount of speaking to a teacher is ever going to achieve for you until your heart is ready. You know? And that's just a fact. And I'm also realizing that in many different ways. That's where the surrender comes in. Yeah. You know? For myself and for others that exist, you know, in this world. You know, I can't go around convincing anyone. I could just kind of sing, and hopefully the song touches them and the message touches them.
How do you surrender? Tell me a little bit more about that. Or what is surrender to you before we even go into how you surrender?
I'd say surrender to me is releasing as much expectation as you can. And I feel there's always more surrendering. You can always surrender more. Yeah. That's the funny thing about it, right? What is enlightenment? I often have a lot of discussions with my teacher, Jerome Rockwell. Yeah. Okay, and he is a Mohawk elder here living with the Miccosukee, learning a lot of really amazing, beautiful things that he's taught to me also about plant medicines. And still, wisdom is a cornerstone of what he does. And one of the things he talks to me about is just like how, in the end of the day, this enlightenment business, while you search for it, it's not achievable, you know? Because there's always more to be done, you know? As long as you can be happy, as long as you can be good, as long as you know how to release yourself, let things go, surrender. You see, what more is there? What more do you want? You know?
Is true.
You know, it's like, that's it.
Really valuable wisdom.
So when it comes down to surrender, it's kind of, I feel like a little bit like that. Is being able to kind of have a certain, first off, contentedness of where you're at. Yeah. Without having to constantly struggle with trying to change the situation as it is, you know, and being able to then breathe into that, have that, and when you see it for what it is, then maybe you can act to do something good about it. Or if there's nothing to do, there's nothing to worry about because there's nothing to do. Yeah. So that, I think, is like, you know, really deep realization that once you surrender, you know, you could begin to see that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm reading go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, I like to think of it as like a closed fist. It's kind of like just there. And so like you're kind of like telling it to say, let go, let go, let go, let go. Well, it's like, it's not going to let go until you actually do it.
Yeah.
You know? So you keep telling your mind to do these things. And it's like, okay. It's like, well, just do it.
Yeah.
You know? But
I
you were
love that.
saying, yeah?
Yeah. So I'm reading The Power of Now. And
Oh, hey.
to go to that same teaching, he explains, that you can measure the level of your success by the state of being. And what he describes as the state of being is that's quantifiable, but how much inner peace you actually feel. So if your consciousness, if your mind is at peace, if you feel like you can truly be the observant of your thoughts and simply like witness them and witness your emotions, witness your sensations, what your body is going through without judgment and just feeling peace of like, interesting. What else? Like asking yourself the questions of what else is going on inside of me that I can witness right now, and then letting that go.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And once you let that go, is where you truly get to the aha moments.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's beautiful, and thank you for sharing that insight because I completely relate to it. And I myself, I am practicing surrender all the time.
Yeah, it's necessary in these days. There's a lot of things changing really quickly, and I think that in the end of the day, we could either struggle as a human race or begin to surrender to the state of things in the earth, and then in that way find solutions with calmness, with peace. There's been enough war and there's been enough reactionism. The reactions don't seem to be working, at least from what I observe. There's some places where maybe it's necessary, when you have really heavy energies that don't know any other language, but the majority of the time, it should be a last resort because it's just like you're gonna end up paying for that.
Yeah.
Violence will beget violence. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's just I think from what I've observed, the law of the universe.
Same. 100%.
Yeah.
And it's I love that you're saying that because I used to have an inner war with myself, with the news industry and the role that I played as a news anchor. And then shifting into the awakened journalist and what that meant for me and what it meant for me to do conscious journalism for the good of humankind, at one point was like, I'm going to tear down the news industry. I'm going to just make sure that it burns and like, with all this rage and anger. And then I finally came to the realization of like, no. That institution in its own way is serving a purpose, whether it's through light or dark, which, I think we both agree that right now it's through the darkness and lower energies or lower vibrations. Yeah. But my role here is just to create something new and to create the world that I want to see and the world that I want to live in. And that's bringing more joy, more unity, more love, more harmony through my interviews, more knowledge and wisdom, more music, more healing to the mind, body, and soul. Through the state of there's always more to do. There's a lot to do, especially in the media and the news industry. It's the fourth power in the world. So how can I enjoy the process and how can I move through this with joy? That's one. And now I'm sitting here doing interviews with you, humans like you, which I love very much. And I was going to make a second point to that and I completely forgot it.
Oh, good. We can surrender to it.
I can surrender to it, exactly.
It's kind of like, it makes me think about, like, what even going back to is, like, what do I want to achieve with the music? And what is the use of music, in these, like, plant medicine ceremonies or in, like, therapies? Once I was hired to actually do some music for ketamine journeys. Yeah. And it's a video which is there. You can see it online, 2 hours of me just playing everything. Just I have my entire orchestra there in front of me. It's just like hitting harmonium, chiming bells, doing all sorts of do that, with my mouth and everything. And ultimately, I think the music which is there for these journeys is to help people surrender. Yeah. To help them go deeper into their states, to help them see and envision the world in a different perspective. Yeah. I mean, of course, I think that sometimes there's a little bit, people can become obsessed with like the chemicals that are released by all these different things, and I think sometimes they can kind of begin to put certain things on the pedestal, either the medicine or the music itself or the people who produce these things. Yeah. And sometimes it kind of gets a little bit lost in translation, but really ultimately I think the goal is to facilitate surrender.
Yeah.
Really.
I love that. And
Yeah.
talking about surrendering in real time, I remembered what I was going to say.
Oh, yay.
There you go.
Okay.
See, I'm telling you, people, surrendering works. So two points. First, we can't do right by everyone. And, what you said, I really resonate with that. And it was a reminder for me when you said it of like, oh yeah, it's okay. Like, I don't have to be so hard on myself. I'm trying really hard here to do my best. And sometimes I'm going to hurt people. And sometimes it's not going to be intentional, Sometimes it might be because we're humans and we're still learning. So that really resonated with me. And then going back to the inner war with the news industry and talking about war and separation and division, and all this chaos that we're seeing is when we're truly able to kind of surrender to that inner war within and really accept it and embrace it and just realize that what we truly want or need is send more love to that part of ourselves, right? That maybe made a lot of mistakes, and that's what you're truly fighting with. So I was fighting with the news industry, and in reality, what was revealed to me later down the line, and it was actually in ceremony with you and with Jerome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't think I told you this, but I did call a friend after that ceremony, and I told her, she was like, oh, what showed up for you? What did you see? And I mentioned to her, like, it was really rough because the revelation that I had was through the news industry and my role as a news anchor and the stories that I was covering, like mass shootings, homicides, domestic violence, etc., I was violating human consciousness because expressing that into a microphone and sharing those stories was only perpetrating that even farther.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because our words are spells. That's why it's called spelling. We cast spells. So the more we speak about negative situations, the more we create that reality.
Yeah.
The more we focus on joyful situations, the more we create that reality. So it's like working through that inner war, and then how can I then share this peace that I'm feeling now and this inner freedom that I found after reconciliating with the part of myself that was ignorant and had a different level of consciousness than what I do now, and realizing like, all right, so this was revealed to me. I was violating human consciousness as a news anchor, and now how can I make amends? Now how can I do it differently? And let me tell you, my friend, that was when I was living in the house.
Yeah.
Oh man, did I have some good cries?
Yeah. No, I know there was a lot of transformation happening there for you. I'm really glad that we were able to cross paths like that. You connected me to some really amazing people too. Yeah. And in that, I really am glad that there's been more awareness being brought to the type of way that we're using our words. There used to be a whole culture, that was sometimes a little bit using it in a coveted sort of way of not allowing words to really even go out into the public. Yeah. But now it's kind of like words are like on the other end of the extreme, where now they're just being used in a way which is just like we're just using words, you're just saying things we don't even mean.
Exactly.
And to me as a songwriter, it's like, well, I could write nonsense, but what's the point for me? It's like for me, it's really like, how can I say the deepest truth that I have, within my music, even if that is just sounds. But it has to have some form of truth, because I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to actually touch people in the way that I want to, is like by being able to embody whatever vibration of truth there is, and so I think that like, yeah,
I'm like, I'm about to choke up over here.
So yeah, and I think in the news, like it's an art too.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like I kind of like, what was it? I was visiting my folks the other day, and I kind of just saw they just have the news on like every evening.
Yeah.
And and my mom just kind of looked at me. It's kind of like, I'm done with this. It's like, what is it? What, Mom? It's like, I'm done with this. It's like, why don't they ever put anything good on? Why does like, this talk about good things? It's not about good things. And it's like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would really agree with that, huh? Sure, whoever's 100%. Watching this, but you probably agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
And the fact is, like, yeah, why not? I think there was like, who's that guy who is like that nice guy from The Office? I forget his name.
With the glasses?
No, he's like the cool guy who's like with that Pam character.
Oh, I barely watched The
I
Office.
know,
I have
right?
no idea.
Anyways,
Yeah.
he did a pretty cool thing a couple years back. I think during COVID,
Okay.
and he did I think something called the Good News Network.
Oh, yes.
You remember that?
Yeah.
It was
I've heard
really awesome.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was like, he just did good news.
Good
I don't know if
news,
he's
yeah.
still doing it, but I thought that was like really great.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sometimes really good to celebrate good news. I mean, of course, there is kind of like the quote unquote stereotype of love and light.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
where then you don't see anything which is like going on in the world. It's like I don't think it's that extreme is necessary either.
100%.
You know, it's good to have to be pragmatic. It's good to like really understand like the ins and outs of the world, to be worldly. You know, even you know, any old Buddhist monk would also tell you that. You know, just you need to understand the world. And he's like, okay, they might be in the cloister, but they also understand what's going on out there, or else the understanding is not complete. You know, so it's like one of the things that are talked about in particular Tibetan Buddhism is like there is a really deep understanding of the phenomenal world, and knowing that the phenomenal world can be used also for being able to administer truth, and being able to see truth, and being able to understand Dharma.
Yeah.
It's a very advanced path, but it's a way which is available too. Long ago, there was a king who really, he couldn't give away his kingdom. It would just hurt too many people if he just suddenly stepped down from his throne. He saw how much it would really be a detriment to his people. And so out of a deep desire to want to benefit his people, he asked the Buddha to teach him, is there a way that I could still have Dharma and not give up my worldly life in the way, because I don't think it would be beneficial. And the Buddha saw that, yes, maybe it would not be beneficial. So I'm going to give you these special teachings because you're ready for them. It's not that everybody is, but you're ready for them. It's a way of like being able to like see the world in a light of spirituality, and understand it deeply, so that you can be able to understand the deep truths of spirituality, of being able to give things away, of live for the benefit of others, but while still being within the world. You know, it's possible, difficult, but possible. You
100%.
know, but there's been a lot of I think division and separation as time has gone by, and I think it's always been there. It's either you're in the world and you're just completely filled with vices and problems, or you completely separate from it and you go off into a mountain, into your own sort of, sometimes your own fantasy of spirituality. And I think that lack of balance could be a little bit problematic. Same thing I think goes with music, because I think the best times when I've written the best music is when I've had a little bit of both, the good and the bad. And that's when the tears flow. Because then all of a sudden I might just say something true that I never expected.
I love that.
So
Circle of Truth before we hop into your song?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's go. I don't know. Do you want to share a really vulnerable truth aside from everything we've shared just now?
Okay. Really vulnerable truth.
I mean, I got pretty vulnerable. And let me just give you guys some background. The ceremony that I was talking about that I sat in with Keysel was a year ago. So it took me quite some time to actually integrate this within myself to then be able to share it publicly.
So, you know, I'm trying to search within myself something which is really real for me right now. At this moment in time. And I guess I'm really kind of like, you know, as I move through the world, you know, it's like that's what inspired me to kind of like talk about the things that I did in this interview. So like talk about my own self-worth, talking about all these different things, because they're the source of, you know, basically any of problems which I've had with anyone, you know, has really been that. And, you know, being able to like become aware of my own shortcomings has been what's helped me also have that vulnerability that helps me write better music, you know, is when I could really be honest, you know, when I could really begin to like let go to like where it is that like, okay, yes, like I can be better in that way, or I could be, you know, a little bit nicer like this, or I could be perhaps like adjust certain things, you know, also while being patient with myself, you know. it's very difficult for me to kind of like, go into, specific situations and things like that, is involving specific people, because it's, there's a little bit of an understanding there. It's like, but know very well that that's why it is that I do music.
Yeah.
Is in order to not only help people, but also kind of help myself.
Mm.
Help myself and guide me to a greater truth that ultimately maybe it can't really be known, and that's why perhaps it's better to just sing about it, even if it's just a sound, and it is what it is.
I love that.
So yeah, I think that for me is, think something that's kind of like been very real in recent times, and like honing in and sinking deeper into that softness, greater softness of understanding, and administering that to different parts of me that might be frustrated or mad or don't understand or wish things were different, and beginning to remember, hey, why are you doing this anyways? Why are you out here in front of people? You have to be willing to go really deep. And as an artist, I think deeper than most people, and to the places that really hurt.
Yeah.
I used to read a really good poet called Rimbaud.
Yeah.
From the late 18th century in France. And he wrote a whole thing about what it is to write poetry. And he talked about the obsessiveness of being able to just get into every nook and cranny of emotion and every single way of viewing something, so that it's an exhaustive observation of reality through the human mind, psyche, the human heart, in a way that is completely unbridled, so that you don't have to answer to anyone, but you sing your song.
Yeah.
Relentlessly and completely and fully. In that way, you also discover yourself, and you feel kind of naked, because you're there looking at yourself. But even then, when you want to hide, you don't, and you keep looking, and that's when it is that, like, maybe something can strike you. And I think that's where also inspiration lives too. So I'm hoping for that. Maybe one day I can have the courage to be that way, and do right by as many people as I can in this life, even though I can't please them all.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
okay. We're trying our best.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank
So
you, Keysel.
so yeah, in the spirit of vulnerability, that's where this song that I'm gonna sing comes from. I was feeling kind of sad out there in the Ozarks
Yeah.
one day, and
In the Ozarks, in what area?
in the northern
Missouri?
Arkansas.
In Arkansas.
Northern
Okay.
Arkansas,
I
yeah.
literally just came from
You
there.
just came from
I
there?
was watching the
Okay.
eclipse.
Oh,
yes.
really? Okay.
So I drove there with my partner. We drove for like 20 hours.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, crazy drive, but it was a beautiful experience. And I got to drive through the Ozarks as well. It was so beautiful. But go
Wow.
ahead. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
Look at that.
yeah, that's kind of like, I hope you could then connect maybe a little bit more deeply with this song,
the
and because it
song,
has that energy
yeah.
there. So I remember seeing all the deer and the owl, hearing them in the evening, and like just spending my time alone up there for about 2 months, on a sort of solitary retreat. And one day I kind of slacked off a bit and kind of spent a little while writing the song in ukulele, which then I transposed over to guitar. It's called "I Write to My Love."
I love that. I love that. And while you're pulling out your instrument, I want to let you guys know, for everyone that's listening to the interview, we have a concert coming up this Sunday, April 21st. So if you want to hear Keysel singing, he will be there. The concert starts at 4 p.m. It is called Caminantes de la Nueva Tierra, and we'll be there until about 10 p.m. We have a beautiful lineup of musicians and artists. I will be there myself. Salva Alva will be there playing with his band. Grace, Janine's daughter, will be there playing her songs as well. Katie Burns-Lee, Sasha, Emilia Garth. So it's a beautiful lineup of musicians.
All the cool peeps.
All cool people. Yeah, and it's going to be a vibe. So be there at 4 p.m., April 21st. And I will leave you with this gift of Keysel's music.
I write to my love, where are you? Out there alone, the spaces of the world. I send you my eyes in the sleepy kind moon. It watches the starbeams in your room. Autumn time falling in red and gold, sparkling past the feathered wing of the owl. You old singer, she sees you in the night, and who sings now of you. Spaces of the world. I send you my eyes in a sleepy kind moon. It watches the starbeams in your room. Yes, the autumn time falling in red and gold, sparkling past the feathered wing of the owl. You won't sing her if she sees you in the night. Tell her who sings now of you. Past the feathered wing of the owl. Oh, you won't sing her if she sees you in the night. Tell her who sings now of you.
The sun forsake me and the moon forgave me.